Alrighty. Hello, everyone. This is part two of my second Robert and Price interview. And to continue where we were leaving off in the last talk, we're going to talk about where Paul says that Christians were chosen in him before the foundation of the world. Now, a lot of people like to say, like, oh, but like, it's not that like God predetermined people to believe in Christ. They say, like, in him serves as a conjunctive conditional. In other words, he's referencing people of their own libertarian free will being in Christ. And because of our libertarian free choice to be in Christ, he's adopting us as sons and stuff like that. But I don't think I read it that way because it's like the choosing in him occurs before the foundation of the world. So I'm thinking like dynamic equivalence would insinuate that Jesus's dad is causally determining Christians to be in him. He's causally determining them to be in Christ before the foundation of the world. Because it's like you have to think about, like, before the foundation of the world, was anyone in Christ? No. So it's like I'm thinking, like, like maybe like the Calvinist has a better understanding. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think like it's choosing to be in him, or is this a reference of since people are in him and God doesn't necessarily have to determine them to be in him, they could have libertarian freedom because they're in him of their own libertarian free will, then he's adopting them as sons and daughters or whatever. Like, what do you think about that?
I think the view is the Arminian sort of free will view is plausible.
Okay.
I've heard it explained like, well, it's like if you're looking at the train schedule in Grand Central Station, it says, oh, the 905 one to Schenectady, that's where it's headed. Make sure you get on the right one. And so it's implicitly saying everybody who gets a ticket for that train is bound for Schenectady. They're going to get it. And so that God decided before the foundation of the world, whoever chooses Christ. I find that plausible, but yeah. I tend to think you're right, though it makes a bit more sense to me that that he is talking about a predestined elect. And
because it's like it happens before. Like, wouldn't it say, if it was the Arminian view, wouldn't it say chosen in him after the foundation of the world? Like, now we're in him, and now after the fact that we're in him, God's like, oh, they're in him, so after that I'm going to give them a reward. I don't know.
Well, it could be, but when you get into before the foundation of the world, that raises extremely theologically dangerous questions, because how can, like, if the creation of the world includes time, like Martin Luther once said, some wag said, hey, Marty, what was God doing on the day before he created time? And Luther said, well, he was raising cane in a cane field so he could use them to whip smart asses like you for asking questions like that.
I think I remember him saying something like that.
It's not much of an answer, as Pilate said. But the problem there is, if you retreat to like what St. Augustine said, that God exists in an eternal now, it's almost like Kant. There is an undifferentiated realm of perception that is the thing in itself, and we can't really see that. It's broken up into causal links for us, a matter of our perception. If you're talking that way, if past, present, and future all are one in God, you're talking about non-dualist Vedanta Hinduism. That's what Gaudapada and Shankara said, that God is outside, Brahman, the ultimate reality, is beyond temporal and spatial conditions, because these conditions are, he called them the upadis, the limiting conditions that cause us to see things, like Kant again. They were what Kant called the logical functions of judgment and the categories of perception. We don't know if time really happens, if causation really happens. All we do know is that we must perceive them that way because of the way we're built. Well, that's like non-dualist Hinduism too. Which was not lost on early Western students of Hinduism. And so if you're saying that, you're saying that the idea that there was a history before and after the cross and things like that is really a kind of Docetism. It's not really that way. It's samsara. And one day you'll be able to see how once you will put away childish things, you'll know as you are known. And you notice when he says, now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Whose face do you see in a mirror? Your own.
Yeah, not even Jesus's.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so it seems to me, if you want to stay an Orthodox Christian, don't go that way because you're open, which is fine by me. I think it's a profound view, but that's not the historic Christian view. And people don't seem to realize it. That's what they're saying when they say stuff like, oh, God is outside of time. Oh, I wish you hadn't said that for your own sake. And,
yeah, I mean that's a question for Bill Craig. I think he talked with the guy he's the atheist. He's on the Cosmic Skeptic. He did an interview on him on like the nature of time and like how was the beginning like and like different models of time. That's a question for him. I'm sure he'd love that. Yeah, because it is complicated. Yeah. Alrighty, yeah. Well, very good answer to the question. And then I guess we'll do one more. Are there any New Testament typologies that are personal favorites of yours and why?
Well, what seems to be a typology, correspondences between what, what an Old Testament figure does and what a New Testament figure, usually Jesus, does. That I think really is a kind of dubious and actually pointless attempt to evade the more natural implication that the New Testament stories are simply rewriting the old ones. Because what would be the point of having Joseph being betrayed by his brethren and all of that, foreshadowing the same thing happening with Jesus? Nobody before Jesus is going to know that. What good does it do anybody? It isn't a prophecy, a prediction, so it's typology, but I really fail to see the point of that. It's much more likely that it's simply the old stuff rewritten. In fact, my erstwhile friend Derek Lambert and I wrote a
Myth Vision.
Speaking of betrayal.
I like how he starts off like that. Yeah, go ahead.
He and I did an article. It was published in the Journal of Higher Criticism, which I edited, about how the Joseph story seems to be a Hebrew redoing of the story of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. I mean, at every point, it's amazing how similar they are. And that furthermore, the Jesus story seems to be another rewriting of the Joseph story with other bits from Osiris that the Genesis writer didn't pick up on. And there are other accounts like the Hellenistic Jewish novel Joseph and Asenath, where the Egyptian fiancée of Joseph has a vision where she sees an angel that looks like Joseph and is called the Son of God. And on it goes, implying that there's this growing tradition of rewriting Osiris as Joseph as Jesus. And you can even take it to Joseph Smith, that he said that the God's revealer will be descended from the biblical Joseph and so forth. Well, you can see what he's doing, but that's what they were doing in the New Testament. So that's the real giveaway as to what's going on, I think, in typology.
Awesome. Sounds good. All righty. Well, those were very good answers to those questions. All righty. Well, that's about all I had for you. I guess to close out, I will let you promote yourself. You can talk about, stuff going on in your life, or if you have any new book coming out. Floor's all yours, sir.
Well, yeah, I do have this book, The Gospels Behind the Gospels, that's supposed to be out any time now. Recently, I had a few come out as sort of a log jam. There was one called Merely Christianity, a systemic critique of theology, which is partly a response to C.S. Lewis, but it's like I'm trying to say how, if I can do it respectfully, how you might not want to continue with this once you realize how little sense it makes. And I deal with the Trinity and the atonement and so forth. And so there's that one. Then there's When Gospels Collide, where I take a whole bunch of important contradictions between the Gospels. And I say fundamentalists are afraid to see these things and to admit that they contradict, because they think that would show it's full of holes and it was written by stupid dopes who couldn't keep the story straight. But that's not the case. You can show very easily why changes were made to aim the story in a new direction. So you're getting more for the price of your money. It's not bad. It's good. You just got to drop this inerrancy obsession. I would say in this that I am the defender of the proper understanding of the Bible, not the fundamentalists like Harold Lindsell. They're cheating you. So that's kind of an involved one. And there was Judaizing Jesus, where I try to show that the consensus among mainstream New Testament scholars is, well, we have to start from square one with the assumption that Jesus was an observant Second Temple sort of Pharisaic Jew. And as opposed to more critical views that said, well, when it sounds Jewish, it was probably borrowed from the rabbis, but Jesus was something else, something like a cynic philosopher or whatever. So I try to show that these various scholars that argue this way are really bluffing. And that their analyses of the material are unsound. And then I say, okay, if Jesus perhaps was not a Torah observant Jew, what are the alternatives? And so I give a chapter each to Jesus as the cynic philosopher, which a lot of people think, including Crossan. And Jesus as the Gnostic Redeemer, Jesus as a sacred Messianic king, Jesus as the Buddha, because that's a fascinating theory, that it was a retelling by Buddhist missionaries in the West of the stories of the Buddha. It sounds crazy, but in fact is not. And so I say, I can't choose between these theories. They all seem plausible to me. Here, take your choice. So that's out. I'm researching another one that'll probably be called Not Peace, but a Sword, where I analyze the commonly held view that the early Christians were all pacifists because Jesus was a pacifist, and that it was a big compromise when Christianity became the official religion, and you could fight and bear the sword for Caesar and Jesus. And I'm trying to show, no, you're succumbing to the false idea that early Christianity was a singular entity with one opinion.
Yeah.
You can kind of reconstruct what the non-pacifist Christians thought and what Jesus, if he really existed, may have thought. He may have been a revolutionary. And so I'm working on that. I ordered a couple of books about the traditional view. And I'm working on my crazy fiction things I have. I'm thinking of, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, there you go. That's cool. That's cool. Kind of like David Fitzgerald. He's a fiction writer too. He's pretty good too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, him and his
Huh.
wife are excellent fiction writers. I talked with him and his wife for the second interview I did with David Fitzgerald, and I was like, hey, like the book, it's kind of like, do you know who, I'm sure you know who James Joyce is, the Irish writer. It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like if James Joyce was alive now and wrote science fiction. Like it was very well written, very good. Yeah, they're good. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Oh, but go ahead and continue, sir. You're talking about your fiction.
Well, I've written a couple of stories about Star Pirate, who was he was a character, sort of a spaceman superhero in Planet Comics back in the 50s. Lynn Carter did a couple of stories about him. And so I'm kind of writing that sort of story using the comic book version of the character. The first one I did was called Terrors of the Buddha Field. And I'm thinking of doing one now based on the Dick Van Dyke Show episode about the Twilo Zone with what's his name, Kolak of Twilo with the walnuts with the absorbitron and all that, working that into it. So I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm coming up with ideas for Superman stories that I can never use because I'd get sued to death.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Awesome. All right. Well, that all sounds good. And then I was gonna read off some of your tiers from your mind vendor site. I think they're interesting. So the first one is initiate, and it says access to my patrons only feed for info, news, and discussions. Personal thank you shout out, my sincerest gratitude for your kind commitment, and your name published on the Patreon page on my official website, and that's if you donate $1 to him. He's got a couple of other ones with very interesting titles. And then the last one, there's 8 levels, and then the last one is Episimis.
Ipsissimus, borrowed from Aleister Crowley.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I was going to tell you something about that. Yeah, Episimis. Sorry,
the Ipsissimus,
Ipsissimus,
which I think means like the thing in itself, the ultimate.
Awesome.
Ipsissimus.
Awesome. Yeah. And then it says you get all previous rewards, and there's 7 of them before. And you get to join Robert and Price and his wife Carl for a VIP dinner with drinks in the restaurant of your choice in Raleigh, North Carolina. That sounds awesome. That's pretty cool. So I kind of helped you out. I'm helping getting people to donate to you. And like,
thanks.
And like, I noticed from all your writings, like, I was going to ask you, do you know who Manly Palmer Hall is by chance?
Say the name again.
Manly Palmer Hall. He's a Freemason.
He wrote some encyclopedia. Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never seen it. It sounds very impressive.
Yeah. Okay. So like, just to give you a short background, he was from 24 to 27 years old, and this was like in the 1920s. He wrote, like, he went all over parts of the world, and kind of like H.P. Blavatsky, like learned all about the esoteric doctrines, the most secret things he could get from people. I guess he interviewed maybe like 33rd degree Freemasons, tried to get the most secrets he could get from like all these great organizations. Maybe he even like interviewed like the Order of Rosenkreuz or whatever, and he made like this huge compendium that's like 650 pages, covers the Kabbalah, the origins of like the Benbine Table of Eses. He mentions Aleister Crowley, the chemical legend by whatever the guy is who allegedly founded the Order of Rosenkreuz or whatever. Covers the
Christian Rosenkreuz.
Yeah, Christian Rosenkreuz, exactly. Yeah, he covers that and all the legends surrounding that guy. And then it's like the history of the Druids and stuff. It's interesting. And you can tell it's from the 20s because like there's the whole like he has a chapter on like the Shakespeare kind of a deal, the Shakespeare conspiracy theory, where it's like Sir Francis Bacon really wrote the plays and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like this is old school. Yeah, it's called his book's called The Secret Teachings of All Ages. You can maybe check it out.
I don't know why I've never gotten a copy. I have to get one. It does sound immensely fascinating.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I'm reading it. It's got like the best stuff in there. Yeah, and I think you can even get a free copy of it online. Like they just have like the appendix. You can click on the hyperlinks and go through the whole thing. So yeah.
Oh. Ooh.
Yep.
Neat.
Yeah, it is neat. Alrighty, well, thank you again for being on the show, good sir. And then in a couple of minutes, I will give you the link to the 2 videos. You can share them with your friends and do whatever you like with them.
Thanks. Great
Uh,
talking with you. Loads of
yeah,
fun.
yeah, great talking to you. Alrighty, thank you.